Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you were just tuning in, we just finished talking about all the stuff NBA, including who might go number one overall in the draft, some more Alex Caruso talk being traded to the Thunder. We talked about Scotty Barnes getting his rookie max extension, and we talked about Kenny Atkinson being hired as the new head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. In this segment, we are going to move out of basketball, talk a little bit about the world of hockey. The Stanley Cup playoffs, the Stanley Cup finals are here at its final game. It's gone as long as it possibly can. We are here in Game 7, a historic Game 7. On the verge of a reverse sweep, the fourth one in NHL history, the second one in NHL Stanley Cup Finals history. We'll talk about some more numbers there and all the storylines in just a second. But before we do, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. I hope you guys had a great weekend as well. But like I was saying, we are going to talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup Game 7. That takes place tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific, so on and so forth. It is a massive game, right? You have what might be the greatest comeback in NHL history. Now, that's up for debate. There are 4 other times where this has happened. 2011 was the last time it happened. I believe the Kings were the one that did it. This was in the first round. This one has a little bit more to it, though, because this is in the Stanley Cup Finals, the biggest stage in hockey, the battle for Lord Stanley, the greatest cup, the greatest trophy in all of sports, right? Florida looked dominant. Sergei Bobrovsky was a brick wall. He was not letting anything through for the first 3 games, regardless of how good the Oilers played. And like I said, like we've been talking about this series as it takes place, the Oilers seemed like the better team the whole time. They really did. And yet, Sergei Bobrovsky was able to keep the Panthers in it until he wasn't anymore. It's like he ran out of gas. And it's not like he's playing awful. It's just this Panthers team has played a lot of hockey. Right? This Panthers team, this is their second straight Stanley Cup final, right? They make it all the way last season, lose in 5 games. Now they're playing into June for the second straight year. This is hard on their bodies. This is hard on these players. It's a long season when you go back to back, and that's why any kind of dynasty in hockey is so hard to get. Those back-to-back, this is such an impressive run by the Panthers, being so dominant thus far into the playoffs, and the way they play so physical as well, being able to stay dominant while staying physical is really hard when you play this much hockey. And I think we're starting to see it wear on their bodies, But even worse than that, right? Because you can play through pain. They're hockey players, they're professional hockey players. That's part of their job description, play through pain, right? But the more scary part, if you're a Panthers fan, is how demoralizing it has to be this close to being reverse swept, right? The last time this happened in the Stanley Cup Finals was 1942. 80 years ago. It's been 80 years since this potentially happened. The Maple Leafs reverse swept Detroit back then, right? 1942. Connor McDavid had back-to-back 4-point games. He was held scoreless, and I really think that the game plan against at least the stars of Edmonton, especially Connor McDavid, when he was out on the ice in Game 6, is something that might lead to success, right? Leon Draisaitl came in huge with a couple assists there, but they held Connor McDavid off the score sheet entirely. He didn't even get a shot in until, I believe, the 3rd period. Or maybe he didn't get a shot in at all. I don't have the box score in front of me. But, Connor McDavid has been amazing. And I think he's a lock for the Conn Smythe Trophy, the NHL MVP for the playoffs. I think he's a lock for that trophy. regardless of what happens here tonight. He's been able to pilot this team that had its struggles. Stuart Skinner has been incredible for them when they needed him. After he got benched in game 5 of that Vancouver series, ever since then, when he got the reins back in game 6 after Picard lost that game, he gets that reign back. He hasn't looked back. They dominate a Stars team that was better than them, I think. They dominate their, I guess, at least for this back half of the Stanley Cup Finals, they've been dominating. And even in the beginning, right, you could argue game 1, they played better in all 3 periods. You could argue in game 3 that they played better in 2 of those 3 periods, right? You could argue that they won at least 1 period in every single game of this series, even when they were losing. This Panthers team just needs 1, and it is scary to think of how close they are, if you're a Panthers fan, to being on that wrong side of history there, right? You have, for the first time, the Cup could go home to Canada since 1993. It's been 31 years since the Stanley Cup was in Canada. It's a long time for Lord Stanley to be away from home, and I don't have a lot of words to describe what happened to this Panthers team, because it's not like their play style has really changed. It's not like their physicality has changed. It's the Oilers' ability to deal with it. The Oilers' ability to muscle through, get those breakaway opportunities. And I don't want to put the blame on Sergei Bobrovsky, because he's still been playing great hockey, right? He's run out of gas. And he needs to buckle up and play one more game. And I know that's a lot to ask after playing into June. It's June 24th, right? A couple years ago, the season would have ended 2 weeks ago, right? Even in a game 7, it would have ended 2 weeks ago. This is a lot of hockey, a lot of stress, wear and tear on these players' bodies. They're gonna fight it out. This is do or die. This is everything. Last game of the season, regardless of what happens. And it's back in Sunrise, Florida, right? Where the Panthers have been really good all season long. They've been really good at home. They need to come out, and they need to come out with energy. Edmonton has done an incredible job coming out with energy, not getting demoralized. They've been able to play high-energy defense, and that's for a team like the Edmonton Oilers, where when they're playing like this, their ceiling is as high as anybody in the world, right? Because their defense is playing. We saw them go on a 16-game win streak this season, for God's sake, right? You know, this was exactly what Stuart Skinner was doing during that stretch, right? He was allowing less than 3 goals a game. That defense was playing with high energy, and they weren't letting those great opportunities get by them, right? But also, we've seen this Oilers team. Think back to the very beginning of this season. Stuart Skinner was playing awful. That defense, we've seen it in this playoffs too. That defense plays lax, and they give up a lot of goals, right? This defense isn't talented. It's just effort. You know, it's one of those things where hard work beats talent when talent isn't trying, right? And that's not to say that the Panthers aren't trying, but that's the best kind of anecdote that I can put on this situation to try and explain why the Panthers have gotten to a game 7. You know, this is only the 3rd time in Stanley Cup history that someone has forced a game 7 after being down 3-0. This is insane territory. You know, McDavid has broken Gretzky's records already in assists. He's probably not going to end up breaking that all-time points record. He is 5 points away, and I don't think he's going to get 5 points in this game. Maybe he'll go out and prove me wrong, but there is a lot to look out for in this game tonight. There is a lot to keep an eye on, and I'm so excited that we get a game 7 in hockey, because there is nothing better than the Stanley Cup playoffs in sports. It's the best playoffs. It's the most intensity. Regardless of if you're a hockey fan or not, you can turn on a hockey game and you can tell how much effort that these guys are putting in and how intense it is, right? You can tell how much passion it is in hockey, right? You know, with it being back on ESPN, you get to see these people. You get more audience to hockey, more people that would have never watched it in their lives saying, "Oh, it's game 7. I might as well turn it on." And you can sense the playoffs in hockey are like none other, right? You can watch the playoffs in basketball and be like, "Oh yeah, that's good basketball." But the energy level in hockey, the feel of the stadium is just completely different in the playoffs time. It's the best postseason in sports, and It's for the best trophy in sports, so I wouldn't have it any other way. This is the best game on the sports calendar every year, other than maybe the Super Bowl. But even that, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm very excited to watch this game tonight. Let me know what you think is going to happen. It's tough for me to pick against the Oilers the way that they've been rolling right now. I think I'm going to have to go with them, but Sergei Bobrovsky plays one more game like he played 3 games in this series, like he played against the Rangers in that Eastern Conference Finals series, right? He just has one more game left in him. It's over for the Oilers. So I'm really excited to see this. I'm going to take the Oilers. I'm going to take them 4-2 in this game. Empty netter. So 3-2, really. This will be a lot of fun. I'm excited for tonight. Game is at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. So tune in for that. I'll be watching, and we'll talk about all of it tomorrow. In our next segment, though, we're going to move out of the world of hockey into the world of baseball. Continue our tour around the major American sports here. We are going to talk about Edwin Diaz, the all-star closer for the New York Mets. He is suspended after being ejected, found with sticky stuff heading into a save situation last night. We'll talk about what that means for the Mets, as they were on a roll, maybe the hottest team in all of baseball after Grimace threw out that first pitch. We'll talk a little bit about what that means for the Mets' future and where this might lead then to the trade deadline. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.